Welcome back. Several months ago, the Biden administration put a pause on student loan debt until May 2022. Now that deadline is just a month away, and activists are calling on for the cancellation of student debt once again. Senior strategic organizer for organization RootsAction, India Walton, joined me to discuss the fight against student debt. India, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me.
So before we jump into this conversation, I'd like to know a little bit more about your organization. Can you tell me about Roots Action?
Sure. Roots Action is an organization that is dedicated to digital organizing. That is really a way for folks who our uh, our Twitter warriors, our Facebook warriors, our email warriors to stay in tune and get activated and turn sort of our digital organizing into meaningful in-person and action through in-person direct actions and also through donations, letter writing campaigns, email campaigns to really push and pull the levers of power in this the great United States of America.
So this has been an ongoing fight for many people, but you've launched a campaign in regards to student debt. Can you tell me more about that and what actually inspired it?
Yeah, so Roots Action really is sort of coming in as an amplifier for the campaign. We have great organizations like the Debt Collective that have been working on canceling student debt for a number of years, and enter India Walton that now has this newfound platform to be able to bring in more people. So Roots Action decided to go and just be an amplifier and act as an accompaniment to the cancel student debt campaign to be able to bring more voices and more ears to the campaign so that we can actually get this done.
So the issue of student debt continues to be a major concern for many people across our country. During his administration, Biden had promised a lot. Can you give us an overview of this in regards to student debt?
Well, we saw this election really dependent upon Black and Brown people, young people, working class people to get Biden into office. And one of the things that was promised during his campaign was the cancellation of student debt. And during various periods of time, he promised us $10,000. There have been folks who called for $50,000. But right now, we sense a need of urgency to cancel all student debt. We know that it will be an economic driver. We know that it will be something that can really tackle the social, economic, and racial disparities in the racial economic wealth gap. And this is something that can happen today that the president can do to really deliver on the promises that we were sold during his campaign.
So I love that you brought up the racial, just bringing up anything regarding race and background like that. And I definitely want to dig into it a little bit deeper later on. But last time we spoke with your organization, the student debt pause was extended 3 months from its original date, January 31st. Where do we stand with all of this right now?
Well, student loan payments are set to resume on May 1st, May Day, which is actually International Workers' Day, which is something that is just blows my mind that we're even considering doing it on a day that is supposed to honor international workers and working class people. But what we've seen is that over the course of the last 2 years, the pause on student debt has allowed folks to do things with that income that they wouldn't otherwise be able to do. And knowing that payments are set to resume, there are a lot of people who are in a state of panic, myself being one. I'm able to put my son in extracurricular activities and do things that I wouldn't be able to do if I had to pay $600 a month in student loan repayments. So I just think that not only pausing student debt and extending the pause, but also just canceling it altogether will be a great economic driver and is going to do a lot for the economy and to help close the gap that Black and Brown people, especially women, Black women like me, have been facing for so long.
Now, I know on the website you have like a visual countdown, and I really like that because I feel like it gives a sense of urgency. Can you tell me a little bit more about that countdown?
I feel that countdown in my bones. Knowing that there are just days until payments resume, right? Like we plan our lives around the bills we have to pay. You know what's due on the first of the month. You know what's due on the third of the month. You know what's due on the 15th of the month. And it's for a lot of us, either we have to cut something, unlike people who have multi-billion-dollar budgets like our state and local governments, or multi-trillion-dollar budgets like our federal government, we have to make decisions based on the day-to-day, the week-to-week, and the month-to-month. And knowing that student loan payments are going to resume on May 1st means that I have some tough decisions to make. And people like me also have tough decisions to make. Are we going to pay for childcare? Are we going to pay for health care? Are we going to pay for the healthy food that we've been eating? Or are we going to continue to enrich the rich? Are we going to continue to, pay these predatory loan repayment and bill collectors on behalf of the federal government? Or are we going to be relieved of that heartache, that pain, the crushing debt that is on the backs of 45 million Americans right now? So I think that countdown is very meaningful to a lot of us.
Now, according to CNBC, student loan forgiveness wasn't included in Biden's 2023 budget proposal, but his administration may consider an extension to the payment pause. What are your thoughts on that?
The first thing is that we're not asking for forgiveness. We're demanding justice, right? This is not something that is a sin or something that we've done, that is cause for forgiveness. This is something that's predatory, that's extractive, that's exploitive, that the federal government needs to just decide that it disproportionately affects Black and Brown people, poor people, and it needs to just be canceled altogether. And the other part of that is, an extension is cool. I think is a small step forward, but we need to talk about permanent cancellation of all student debt. And we also need to talk more about making education free for all Americans. And, if we want to see ourselves into the future, if we want to invest in our people, then education is an investment that can easily be made. And school should just be free.
I really like that you mentioned about the forgiveness. I think language is really important when we have these conversations. So I like that you kind of clarified that. So we also found a chart that shows that here in NYC, the percentages of borrowers with over $100,000 in student loans. Do you feel that these pauses are actually helpful to any of this, or do you just feel like they're short-term fixes?
A pause is definitely a short-term fix, but I feel like over the last 2 years, it's been helpful, right? For so many families and individuals that have been struggling through the pandemic, a pause has been something that has been a welcome relief. But I think that, what we really need is for this to be taken one step further, and to ensure that we have full cancellation for folks who need it the most. And the other point that I would just want to make is that um, this is not a giveaway for the wealthy. I think there's a false narrative going around that student loan cancellation is going to benefit, upper class people who went to Yale and Harvard, and that's just not true. Folks who are wealthy and well-to-do had money to pay for school, and in general didn't need to take out student loan debt. The majority of folks who took out student loan debt, um, are people of meager means. And not only that, but 40% of people who hold student loan debt don't have a degree. So there are a lot of folks who have student loan debt who haven't actually graduated for one reason or another. And it's just good economic policy to ensure that people are not crippled by owing student loan debt.
So we have a few minutes left. You talked about it earlier, and I kind of want to touch on it again. On your website, you state student loan debt falls disproportionately on people of color and women. Can you explain how these communities are disproportionately affected by this?
Yeah, I can talk about my personal story. I was speaking to my mother yesterday, and I was saying I took out student loans not only to pay for school, but because I was a parent while I was in school, right? So the sacrifices that you have to make while being a student means that I needed money to make sure my rent and bills were paid. I needed money to make sure that my son had a winter coat because I couldn't otherwise afford it, working even full time or part time, trying to keep up with the rigors of academia as well. So, people take on student debt not only for educational expenses, but also to cover the expenses of everyday life that sort of go to the wayside in order for you to be able to maintain while you're seeking higher education. So this is a personal thing for me, but not only me, but so many others like me who I see struggle and people who I know can have a better quality of life if not strapped with student debt. I think back in December, I posted a tweet like, "What would we do if we weren't strapped with student debt? Right? Like buy a house, have children, put our children in extracurricular activities, donate to charity, adopt an animal. So many things that we would be able to do with that extra two, three, four, five, six, sometimes $700 a month that we're repaying to large companies that have more than enough while we're juicing and draining the working class who work so hard under the guise that having that piece of paper, that degree is going to put you in a different socioeconomic status. And we have not seen that come to fruition. So I really want to see the Biden administration act on this.
Hmm.
And I think it's a good thing. And I'm looking forward to seeing some movement on this over the course of the next few weeks.
India, thank you so much for joining me. Before we let you go, can you quickly just let everybody know how they can sign this petition or just join this movement?
Sure. You can visit withoutstudentdebt.org. I also encourage everyone to follow the Debt Collective at Strike Debt at Twitter, and also follow myself at Twitter at India Walton for Buffalo.
All right, thank you so much for joining us. We'll be right back with more Open BxRx Tuesday.